Today on the show we have Georgia van Cuylenburg, the voice of Vanille from Final Fantasy XIII.
Hey guys!
So, just got a couple questions for you today.
Shoot.
Alright, so how did you get into voice acting?
Well, I got into it when I was in Australia. I had the fun job of voicing Angelina Ballerina and Jake as the pig over there by chance because I did a live show with that company. And so I started doing that, and that was all very sudden. Like, they literally gave me the video of Jake as the pig and said, "You're coming in tomorrow, record this." And I was like, "Oh, he's Irish. Awesome." It was kind of, I'd never done an Irish accent before, but I got thrown in the deep end, and it kind of worked out okay. And then I came over here and had the voiceover demo ready to go. So I just went to an agent, and they signed me, and I am still with them 6 years later. So they're pretty awesome. I love my agency, and they have got me some pretty great jobs. Just auditioning the voiceover is one of those jobs, even more so than on camera acting, where the more you do it, it's so by recommendation and so by I worked with this, you on this, so we're going to hire you for this. Even more so than on camera stuff, it's very much who you know. So the more you do it, the more work you're going to get.
So what has been your favorite role in voice acting?
Oh, well, Vanille, I guess she's my favorite. I guess because I absolutely love her personality. I just think she's so hilarious. It was so fun to do that, and it was the longest job I've ever had. So a lot of these jobs, they do them really fast and, condensed amount of time, but we recorded her over 6 months. So it gave me a chance to really get into her, and the development that she goes on was really special to kind of go from being ditzy and hiding something to revealing something. I really enjoyed going on that journey with her. So she's definitely fun. There is another role that I did recently, which unfortunately I can't talk about much. It's on my Facebook, so we know if you've looked at, not my Facebook, at my IMDb, it says that I play that character in the Star Wars game that's coming out, but I know I'm not allowed to talk about that much. But that was a huge, doing that job for me was like a dream come true, because I'm such a huge Star Wars fan that being able to play a character from a Star Wars, for a Star Wars character and getting a check from LucasArts was maybe a highlight of my career so far.
So what did you like about Vanille?
I'm super positive. I'm like Vanille in that everything is sunshine, rainbows, and lollipops in my life. And not to say that it is, but that's how I choose to view my life and how I choose to see the life that I have. So I know what it's like to have a pretty, some really heavy stuff in your past and be able to make the most of the goodness in front of you. So having a character that's like that was very, very fortunate and interesting to be able to see it in front of me as that's what other, and also to see the feedback, that negative as well as positive, from the fans, to really, a lot of people got angry about her because she was way too over the top and way too happy and peppy and annoying. And I was like, God, maybe I'm way too over the top and peppy and annoying. That's an interesting thought. But it was just to play a character that's so close to yourself, and yet different, obviously, for many reasons, was pretty special, and I loved a lot of her lines. Really rang true with me, so yeah.
How often do you go to conventions?
I haven't been to many in a while. Last year I went to about 4. I would love to go to more. A couple of the other, I know that the girl that plays Lightning goes all the time because of her Mass Effect character and a couple of other characters. So she's very busy going to the cons. I, however, not so much. But I'd like to go to more. I'd really love to, because the fans that I've met over Facebook and at Comic-Con and Anime Expo and E3 were just some of the nicest people I've ever had the pleasure of meeting.
What's your opinion on the cosplay?
I think it's awesome. I just think it's so fantastic. the people look like the amount of effort and time and detail, and everybody's like, I meet these kids and they're like, I'm 12 and I've spent 6 months doing this, and these things look like professional level costumes. I think it's amazing. Like, what an amazing art to be able to do that. It's hard work. So I completely applaud everybody that does it.
Do you see your character cosplayed often?
I do. I get sent pictures, and also when I was at Comic-Con and Anime Expo in particular, there was a lot of Vanilles. It's kind of funny to see it, and a lot of those girls have stayed in contact with me. So it's kind of cute, So, yeah.
Any upcoming conventions?
Oh, I was just talking to my agent about it today. We are looking into a couple. I am in a new game, which I'm not allowed to tell you about at all because it hasn't been announced yet.
Lovely NDAs.
Sorry?
Lovely NDAs.
Aren't they the best? So I got in trouble. I got in trouble with Final Fantasy because we didn't sign an NDA, but Japan thought I had. And I talked about it in an interview, and I hadn't signed an NDA, so technically I didn't do anything wrong. But I apparently wasn't allowed to say anything about doing it yet, so I got in trouble. So I've learned my lesson, so I cannot tell you what con I will be at next, because that would give you a hint of the game I'm going to be in next. So unfortunately, yes, there is one, but I cannot tell you what it is, because that would give away what game I'm doing.
Oops.
So I'm sorry. But I will be going to others, especially, how do I say this without giving more away? Next year, let's say this. Next year, there will be video games out that I have been in, and therefore there'll be 3 more. So I feel like that's when I should go back to the cons and hang out with everyone, because I feel like this year, Final Fantasy was from last year, and I didn't want to turn up and be like, hey, remember me, guys? I'm still cool, right? So I'd rather come with something new and be able to talk about a new character and something different. So, yeah. Next year, I think, will be my con year.
So where do you usually go to audition? Do you, different studios outside, or do you have a home studio?
I have both a home studio and I go to my agency. My agency is only about 25 minutes away from my house. So if I have to be over that way, I prefer to go in a lot, because then they've seen me and we've talked through the character, and the sound director at my agency is an absolute gem of a person, so it's always fun to see him and give him a hug. And also my agent and I get on really well, so it's always good to see him. So I tend to go in whenever I can, whether it works, but sometimes I travel a lot, so I have a portable setup that I take with me, and it's a good enough setup to do my auditions. So I do that, but whenever I booked a job, I always either go to my agency if they can do it from there, or I go to the place that they're recording it.
What kind of setup do you recommend for amateur voice actors?
I think the best thing to do, actually, believe it or not, if you've got a pretty sound tight room, like as long as you've got a room that's not too noisy or too echoey, that there isn't a lot of extraneous noise from outside. Mm-hmm. All you really need is a snowball mic, because they're pretty good for auditions. I've never done a job on one, so that's different. But as far as getting an idea of how your voice works and hearing it properly, it's a pretty good setup. It's pretty cheap too, as far as getting started. It's really not that expensive. So that would be my number one suggestion to people that are getting into the biz. So,
do you have any... Sorry.
No, that's all right.
Do you have any advice for upcoming voice actors?
Yes, I do. Play, and play a lot. It's very important to be really comfortable with using your voice. So the more you know what your voice can do and work on it and stretch it, like if you hear an accent, you're like, gosh, I don't even know if I can do that. Just jump in there and try it and work on it and listen. I went to New York a couple of weeks ago to play cricket, and I was surrounded by island women, Jamaican and, Trinidad and Tobago women. And I spent half of my time just listening to their accent, trying to perfect it because it was so fascinating. So it's like, you know, if you're going to be around a voice, listen to it. Or if you watch a movie and someone does an accent, you're like, oh, that's a great accent. Learn it. Or if you like doing funny characters, like that's a big one for me. I love the goofy characters. I will always get called in for the goofy characters. So I spend a lot of time working on my goofy characters. Like, I'll just call up my friends sometimes. I'll be like, hey, so it's me, and I was like wondering if you want to hang out with me later. So, you know, I'm always doing some different voice. Like, oh my God, you guys are like crazy. Because it's fun and silly and goofy. And then, you know, if you get a script and it says we need someone that can be off the wall silly, you can do that. But if you haven't had a lot of practice, you're more likely to get caught up in like worrying that you look silly or you look goofy or, you know, someone's going to laugh at you. And you can't think about that. Voice acting is one of the greatest things in the world because you're in a black room by yourself with a microphone. No one is watching you. So the whole idea, I guess, of my long-winded answer to you lovely boys is be silly and goofy and get used to it because you're going to have to be.
All right, last question. What would you say is the hot spot for voice acting jobs?
Two-sided answer, I would have to say. Depends what sort of voice acting you want to do. If you want to do film, film is very hard to get into unless you're a name. That being said, film or TV or video game is predominantly LA. There's a lot of voiceover work for those mediums in LA. Texas has a really big commercial market, and New York has a really big commercial and some TV, some video game, some movie. New York's really huge for commercials for some reason, but LA is the place where, you know, it's kind of like it mirrors the industry on a bigger scale. You know, LA is really the place, but New York's pretty great too. And then you have like Texas as well.
Good old Texas.
Good old Texas. So, yeah.
And one last question.
Do it.
Do you have any other upcoming projects
that you can't talk about?
That you can't talk about?
Well, it's such a hard question. Well, IMDb has told you that I will be in Star Wars, so I don't feel so guilty saying that. I could get in a lot of trouble, so if you never hear from me again, I got shot by someone from LucasArts.
Okay.
But it's on IMDb, so I feel like I'm not that naughty. I will be involved in that. I will be involved in 2 other video games that I know about. One, I would suggest you guys will be playing. Another, I don't know if you'll play it. But those are the 2 that are upcoming, which I cannot talk about. My things that are not video game related, my film that I've been working on for 3 years, my documentary is finished, and finally, thank goodness. So we are now taking that out to distributors and film festivals, and we're going to pimp it across the world and change the world. So that is done now. I was going to be on an episode of Weeds, but that changed. I filmed it, but they decided to change the storyline, so that's disappointing. And besides that, you know, we're getting back into episodic season now, so I've started auditioning a lot again, so who knows? Hopefully we'll get a couple of good roles this year.
All right, I think that'll wrap it up. Thanks for your time.
You are so welcome, boys.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Bye.